Welcome to a beautiful day and a beautiful GR Corolla. Now, we've gotten this car tuned. We've had this car on the track already on the stock suspension, and there's a track day coming up, so it's time to tighten things up a little bit in the handling department. Now, why are we doing this? Well, first of all, it's fun. Second of all, we need to intimately know this car because I know that you guys will very much intimately know your cars, and the only way we can provide you with the right tuning, the right parts, and the right advice is if we live that life. So we need to march on with development progress on this car. And then finally, this is a bit of a validation process. So I want to make sure that, you know, when we recommend something to you, when we have something on our website, that you guys are purchasing the right parts that are going to enhance the experience of the GR Corolla. So now turning a little bit into the handling department. First of all, you can see that we've got a set of coilovers. These are a set of Cuscos. Now, at this time of creating this video, there aren't a whole lot of options for this chassis in terms of suspension readily available. So we have been using throughout the years Cusco components, whether it's been braces, we've used the differentials, and we've never used their coilovers. So this was a perfect opportunity to see how these coilovers perform, and you know, we could become fans of their setup. So a few things to kind of go over in terms of these coilovers. First of all, I'm really happy to see that both the front and the rear springs are linear rate, which means that the car will behave very predictably. Second of all, I will point out that these are, they come with mounts, and both front and back mounts, which is nice because it gives you a non-dampened mount to the chassis, and the front mounts are actually camber plates. So we're going to be dialing in some front camber onto this Corolla, which is something that all of these cars can use more of while on the track. The next thing is that these are adjustable in terms of height, of course, and adjustable in terms of dampening. The dampening adjustment is at the top here. So we'll see about how accessible that is on this car, because I know the cowl goes pretty far forward, and the adjustment in the rear is off to the side here. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that adjustment for dampening in the rear as well. And we're going to be playing around with some ride heights as well as dampening to dial it in. You can see that there's no helper spring here. They use a pretty long spring. So we're gonna see how this all looks, how this all sits, and of course get it aligned with our good friends down the road at Dale's. Now, a couple of other parts that you're gonna see here is we're gonna get a motor mount. Pretty much every front wheel drive and front wheel drive based all wheel drive systems, or transverse rather, that we use or that we tune uses this style, kind of a dog bone mount that goes underneath the car and prevents the motion of the motor in this direction as you accelerate. And of course, there's an NVH, noise, vibration, harshness component to all of this. So the OEM one is fairly soft to dampen some of that vibration. When you go to aftermarket, you're gonna get a little bit more vibration, but you're gonna get a much more positive feel as you come on and off the throttle and as you shift gears. So another Cusco part, looks great, looks solid. We're gonna put this in and see how that performs. Now over to this side, you see a set of SSR GTX01 rims here, 18 by 9.5, and we have them wrapped in A052 tires, which is one of my favorite tires for kind of a streetable track tire. Now, these are not brand new, and we didn't get them initially for this car. These actually came off of our VA WRX Time Attack car. The beautiful thing about all this is that they fit just wonderfully on this chassis. There's a lot of room underneath the wide body of the car, and this tire will fit no problem. You can even run a wider tire on the car. But we've got these from the WRX, and we're going to run them with, of course, the correct hub-centric rings for this chassis and a set of lug nuts, because the OEM lug nuts have a kind of a Toyota thing where they insert into the rim, and these ones do not. So we've got some adjustment tools here from Cusco with the traditional Japanese writing, which is always nice to see right there. We've got the hub-centric rings. We're ready to take some stuff apart, get this car set up on some coilovers, and continue the journey. You need to remove your entire cowl to get access to the top of the strut towers. It's a bit of a pain, and we're going to have to probably drill some holes right into the top here so that we can make adjustments to the dampening of the shocks. Yeah, modern cars have these because of the forward placement of the windshield and how the dash is set up. So there is that component of it. Once you deal with the cowl, the rest of it is really pretty straightforward. So we can have a quick look here underneath and kind of identify a couple of components. So first of all, the brakes on this car are absolutely enormous. They have cooling vanes that are directional. All you need is pads, and we have pads coming in for the track event on this car. But other than that, so pads and a little bit of cooling. And we're gonna see if we can do something with the cooling. We'll devote a little bit of time with that once the suspension is in. Well, in the rear, it's actually even simpler. You take this piece off here. So this is the cup where the spring sits, and then your shock sits right in here. So you don't even need to get into your trunk to remove any of these components, making it very, very straightforward. Now, if you come here, we're gonna do a little bit of, let's weigh the components. And let's see if there's any weight savings in putting this Cusco suspension in. So first, 21.4 pounds for the stock front assembly. And now, 17 pounds. So that is 4.4 pounds per corner at the front that you're saving with this, and obviously a much tighter spring and stiffer setup. So the rear shock and spring are about 9.8, and the adjustment collars, oh look at that, yeah, actually a little bit heavier. So you gain that 2.2 plus 2.4 pounds in the rear. So the rear is a little bit heavier than the front. The front is a little bit lighter compared to stock.
So we got the strut on the left side here, the front strut. You're installing these. The way they came out was that the two nuts on the inside of the top hat are actually over top the cowl, and these washers go underneath the cowl. Because the cowl does not have an opening for the adjustment or the camber adjustment, it's best to kind of do all those now if you don't plan on cutting your cowl. What's next is I put stuff together down here. All we need is to put the knuckle on the strut, and the sway bar, end link, and brake hose, ABS line, and this side should be buttoned up, and then do the same thing with the other side, and then we'll start with the rears. We'll do it on the other side. So one thing, where is the... Greetings, friends. After a few moments of struggle, we found that to install the new shock back into the car, this stud that holds it onto the knuckle will have to come out. So you put it on the lower shock bolt hole, and then you thread it into the knuckle when you put it back in. Yep, we'll keep getting our hands dirty and put it all back in, and she'll be ready to go to alignment.
Well, John has done an amazing job at putting these coilovers in the car. So we'll just give you a quick little overview of where we're at and what else we're planning to do before this next track day. You can basically adjust your suspension without even opening your hood. Look at that. Look at all that room for activities and cooling. So maybe something to think about. Maybe a way to extract some air from the engine bay this way. This has a ball joint here that is actually bolted into the control arm. This is very much a Volkswagen thing, so you'll see this on the GTIs and the Golf Rs. And you could actually make an extended or adjustable ball joint that also can give you camber by pushing the bottom of the knuckle in and out. Now we also put in the rear motor mount. So you can see the Cusco motor mount in here. We'll show you what the OEM motor mount looks like. It's got basically two bumpers here, so as the engine is loaded in either direction, the engine movement is restricted by these two thicker pieces of rubber. But however, at idle or the engine is not loaded, then it's just suspended by these two outside pieces, reducing NVH. So I do expect NVH to come up with this fully solid bushing, but we're even thinking maybe there's a way to improve the OEM motor mount to give it a bit more stiffness and still retain some of its compliance. For now, we're trying the Cusco mount, and we'll see how that turns out or how that drives and feels. The car is back from our good friends at Dale's, where they have dialed in our alignment, and check out some of these numbers. So first of all, I'd like to point out that we have 3.5 degrees of front camber, and that's with the top plates maxed out and the knuckle maxed in the opposite direction. So we can probably get about 4.5 degrees of camber on this car with just these Cusco coilovers. In the back, it's not really adjustable for camber without putting in some adjustable links in there. So it's 2.68, which is a really good starting point. So I'm happy to see the alignment settings where they are on this car for now until we get some track time and see, are we getting oversteer or getting understeer, and how we manage that. But while we are testing and fitting the wheels, dialing in the suspension, we also want to address the brake pads. So the OEM pads, we use them on track once. The brake system is absolutely huge for this car, so that's great news. We tested these out on a wet track day at stock power levels. They did very well without any modifications. But we're stepping up to a warmer, bigger, longer track. We've got more power because of our tuning. So we're testing out a set of EBC brakes. Now, when you want to use EBC brakes for the track, they recommend that you get a track dedicated compound, and that's what we did. So we're going to be running the RPX compound front and back. This is a new compound to me. If this works out great on track and I'm super happy with it, we're going to be offering it on our website for you guys to also use on track. So we're going to be swapping these out front and back. The beautiful thing about the brake system on the GR, because it's multi-piston front and back, is it makes it really easy to swap out pads. You remove 2 pins and a spring clip, and then the pad in here will slide out like this. So it makes it really, really simple to swap out pads between track and street. Also, while we're in here, I want to improve cooling a little bit into the braking space, into the wheel well here. So we're gonna be creative about adding some air into this area. First of all, I actually bent this out of the way a little bit. It's really enclosed just like on a Subaru, and this is not permanently modified. You can bend it back if you wish, but I took a page out of the BMW book where they do this. They actually have them formed like this to allow some airflow to pass in between the heat shield and the rotor. The second thing is that you can see that I've removed this air deflector. This air deflector prevents air from getting into the wheel well. It's an efficiency thing. But what we're doing here is we're allowing more air to get in behind the wheel here and cool off this area. We're actually working on adding something in here ourselves. For now, I've just removed the OEM piece so we can model it. And then we're working on making a brake piece in here to help guide some air into the back. The fluid, by the way, which we're gonna be running the HP600, which is a Hawk fluid, racing fluid, and just the additional little cooling bits that we have here. But we will not know without testing. Here we are at the track. Beautiful Area 27, beautiful, hot day. According to my watch, it's over 30 degrees already. So it's cooking. And what you're most interested in, I'm sure, is how our GRC is performing on track. This is a very long track. It is 5 kilometers, so it's just over 3 miles long, and it's a higher speed track. Now, what we have done on here and what you've seen is that we've got, of course, our tune, our calibration that I've been refining through the canyons on track. We're a little bit of elevation here, which is perfect for refining that aspect of the calibration. The engine hardware remains stock. You can even see a stock airbox up here, and we're doing really well, actually. We're top of class at this track. The car just drives beautifully. We have had 0 all-wheel drive faults. Even in this heat, the sun is just baking here, and the all-wheel drive system never shut off. As you know, and you remember from last time, we've got some heat shielding on the exhaust pipe going around the rear diff, and we've got some heat shielding on the sensor itself, and it's just been flawless. I've been driving it in 50/50 track mode, in expert mode, so yeah, it's been great. And the car is surprisingly fast. I shouldn't say surprisingly, because you know, they do get advertised as being quick, but you don't know until you put it to the test. Another real nice thing about all this is that the way we set up our tune is that we set it up to be flexible in terms of the octane. So we came here, we loaded it up with premium fuel. I don't have any E85 around, so we couldn't run our E85 tune, which is in a second map slot on this. So I ran the pump gas tune, but because of the heat and because of the high loads that you see on track all the time, you know, there would be some knock. So I just poured in some Lucas octane booster, and the car adapted to it, which means that their power just was great all the way to redline, and absolutely 0 hiccups on the calibration and on the engine. And I'm super happy to report that to you guys. So we test the absolute crap out of our cars and out of our tunes and out of the parts that we offer you. So this is another testament. Great job, Toyota, for putting a car together that does so well on track, and we're going to just make it better. So I'm very happy with where we're at. Another note on temperatures, the brakes are holding up well. I've got some plans for some additional cool air in there, but they're holding up well. But the other 2 components are, of course, engine coolant temp and engine oil temp. And the highest I've seen the engine coolant temp was just about 102 degrees Celsius. And it reports in Celsius. For oil temp, it showed 133 peak on the dash. Now that's pretty warm. It's not too warm for synthetic modern oils, and we have changed to a thicker 5W30 for the track. You can even go a little bit thicker, 540. But yeah, so oil cooling seems to be kind of the area that we want to address in terms of cooling. The charger temps are also surprisingly holding up really well with the OEM intercooler. So I have to think long and hard about what we do on the engine next, what is going to make the biggest difference. And I think from our testing, the intake is going to be the first to go on there, and then it's just upwards and onwards.
Good job carrying speed.
The car is back at the shop. You saw me talk about how awesome this car was on track in the hot weather. And it was awesome, and the weather just got hotter. So I talked about how the diff did not overheat at all. Well, it did actually overheat in the afternoon sessions. The ambient temperatures were about 40 degrees, and that means that the track temperature was significantly above that, so it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and just this guy could not cool itself. I could get 2 hot laps and 1 warm-up lap before it overheated, so we're going to look into cooling solutions for the differential.
So, since you guys love track times and we love taking our GR out on track, between the time that we were at Area 27 and when we released this video, we actually took the car to another track, the Ridge Motorsports. Now, the Ridge was a very different track. It was a lot cooler, 25 degrees Fahrenheit cooler, and the differential, which proved to only last 2 laps at the Area 27, was good for 20-minute sessions with absolutely no overheating at the Ridge. There were no additional coolers, no other changes to the car. We did make some tweaks to the tune, which shouldn't affect the differential temperature. We're just always improving our craft and our tune. And otherwise, the car remains stock engine-wise with the Cusco coilovers, the rear engine mount, and just a whole lot of fun in between. The Cusco coilovers did loosen the collars at the Area 27. We had to retighten those. We had some suspension noise, some clunking that turned out to be that. And otherwise, what you're watching now is a lap at the Ridge. Unfortunately, the camera equipment failed to capture the fastest lap of the day, but you can see here keeping up with an M2 competition is not a problem. The car pulls out of corners beautifully, and it's so well balanced throughout the entire turn. You can both throttle steer and you don't lose the front end to understeer. So it remains a very impressive chassis, and we look forward to many, many more track days, many more mods, and many more improvements. Now on to the conclusion of our video.
So oil cooling and diff cooling are probably the two biggest areas that will improve how long you can hot lap the GR Corolla. The engine and transmission otherwise performed very well, and our tuning, like I said, I'm very, very happy with how it did, and I really managed to put it through its paces. Drove well over 1,000 kilometers, including track miles. So without further ado, we're going to do more mods. We're going to improve and implement more things. Keep on following. If you've got any inquiries regarding tuning, regarding parts, or anything like this for this exciting platform, please reach out to us, StratifiedAuto.com, and we'll see you guys soon and on the next one.